You've probably already seen tables like this one, giving well-deserved credit to the contributors of open source projects. But you know that developers are lazy, so there has to be a simple and maybe automatic way to manage this table. Today's topic is the All Contributors tool, and I will show you in a moment how you can integrate it in your repositories and why you should. Contributors are usually rewarded by having that green square in their profile, and this most likely happens when you close a pull request. There are also other ways which grant you the green square, but not everything counts. And that's why this tool aims to recognize, for example, contributors that are creating blog posts or contributors who are mentoring new members or creating plugins, as those actions do not give you the green square, but the contributors deserve some form of recognition. But enough talking, let's go back to the homepage of this website, and as you can see, there's a big blue call to action: install the bot. The thing is, you can create and maintain this table in basically two ways: through a bot, which is a GitHub app, or via the CLI. I think the CLI is slightly better, but let's start from the bot, as I think it's the easiest way to get started with this tool. The instructions are really easy. Just install the bot by clicking here, select your organization, select which repositories the bot is active, and create the draft README. But how does it work? Let's see the usage page on the documentation. Basically, all you have to do is just add a comment on an issue or on a pull request, asking the bot to add a contributor. And that's what we're gonna do. For example, here, this is my community project. There's a new PR which I merged a few hours ago, and this user is not yet listed in our table. So, what's the plan? In his pull request, I can add a new comment here. I just copy it basically from the documentation, and I can add, please add the username, which will be this one. I will copy paste, but actually you can even you can tag him, okay? And here you can add what the user did. For example, code, because he wrote some code, but we already see in the emoji key table here, and every time someone does something, you can add them even later. So let's stick with code for now. What happens when I add this comment? Let's find out. So, at first, nothing happened here, but if we scroll a little bit and go on the pull request page, a new one just appeared, and it's from the All Contributors bot. If I open this pull request, I can see that the bot added this user for code, which is exactly what I requested, and it links the comment where the request was. And here also adds a comment to let you know that the tool set up the pull request. So, going back to the pull request the bot created, you can see the changed files, which are this file, which basically is used to keep track of the contributions, and the README. I can now go back to the PR, and as easy as that, squash and merge. I click here, and that's basically it. That's how simple this tool is. If I now go to the homepage of my repository, I scroll down, and this is the entry added from the bot in literally a comment and a pull request, which I just click the merge button. So using the bot is really fast, but I also like the CLI. But before going into that, let me remind you that, hey, my name is Leonardo and I talk about open source pretty much every week. So if you like this topic as much as I do, well, let me recommend you to subscribe to the channel. Great, now that you're a subscriber of my channel, we can go and talk about the CLI of the All Contributors tool. Back to the documentation, let's see how the CLI works. First of all, this requires Node, which is written, I think, here. And actually the bot is useful because you don't need to install anything local. But if you want to use the CLI, you have to install it in your machine. But it's as simple as installing it with npm. Obviously, if your project does not use Node, you might not want to add it only to this tool. But with that said, you can init the project, which is the same as installing the bot and setting up the basic stuff. And you can add contributors with pretty much the same syntax. Instead of adding a comment on a PR or on an issue, you can just run the command telling who to add and for what. So let's say someone has just created a blog post. What can I do? From here, I can just run npx all contributors add, let's say it was me, for what was the emoji key? Let me just see that in the table. Blog post is content. So I can write content here, and if I run the command, what happens here? You can just see the changed files on Git. Pretty much the same that happened on the PR. So this changes slightly, that's because of printer, I guess. I should probably look into that. But the actual change is that on my account, I had project management and code, and now I also have content in the array. And if I go on the README, that's pretty much the same. It basically added a new link here with a new icon for content. What can I do now? Well, create a branch with my aliases as usual. This is basically checkout-b. Well, I didn't mean to submit. So I can create a branch called add strong content. And here on this branch, I can say docs add strong for content. And that's basically it. I can now git push and create a pull request for this new change. I can easily do that by going back to the repository, scrolling up, and there you have it. This pull request will basically add myself for content. The thing is the CLI better than the bot? Let me think about it. The bot does everything automatically, while the CLI requires you to have something local in your computer. You have to manually create the pull request. But something I don't like about the bot, which is not necessarily bad, is that you basically need to tag the bot and actually the other user so that it gets a notification. Then you get a notification from the bot because it had this comment, and a new notification to the contributor because of the pull request. So basically there's a lot of notification spam just to add everything this easily. So it's kind of a trade-off. The CLI lets you do everything on local with much more flexibility without spamming notifications, but you need to do a couple extra steps like creating the branch and creating the pull request. The bot, on the other side, is super easy to set up, works on every kind of repository because you don't need to have Node locally, but it spams with a little bit of notifications. So it's really up to you what you like to use the most, but you can actually use both depending on the situation, and that's exactly what I just did in this video. And this was the All Contributors tool. I hope you liked it and you're gonna use it in your project, because I really think we should give the well-deserved credit to our contributors on our open source projects. I'm using it on my project and I think it's working quite smooth, so I think I'm gonna use it on even future projects as well. And with that said, keep contributing to open source and see you in the next video. Bye!